the first 10 years of our marriage, we were headed down a very dark path. And at first it seemed like fun, but then the fun turned to chaos. So we tried to cover the chaos with attending church, and we became involved in our church family, and eventually Harry served on the church board and I was a Sunday school teacher. So we were really just doing what the world does to fill the empty place, the spiritual place that only God can fill in our lives. Well, if the Lord had not intervened and we had not been so interrupted that it changed our lives, I hate to think of the life we would have had instead, and how much more drastically our children would have been impacted for the negative side of things. It is amazing how that kind of interruption can bring that kind of change to a person's life. There could have been divorce, there could have been a drinking and driving accident that caused the loss of life, or your children would have turned away from God when you've tried to tell them about Him and they didn't believe you because of how you were living, and they knew how you lived.
I know this is the most I've talked about our life's walk than since we left the military. And I can honestly say, if somebody needed a good reason to take their spouse and drop kick him out to the curb, I gave Norine every chance to do that. And where it really changed, I feel, is the day that she told me, if you can be the man that I thought I was marrying many years ago, I can forget all this stuff we've gone through and we can move on. And that was forgiveness. And that's what we've done.
It wasn't too long, and we offered a little Sunday school class for our church, and we were just giving some information about alcoholism and addiction and just acquainting people, helping them to be more aware of that. And after one of our classes, a woman came up to us and said, "This stuff belongs in a dark alley." And we said, "Well, we think it belongs in the church, that it's been in a dark alley far too long, that is where addiction breeds and grows, and that when you shed light on it, then evil can't continue in the light." And so sometimes there's been resistance. I think it's the spiritual battle that we're in, and that we do have an enemy. But I think we have to take some ownership of that too as people. Is that what makes us so resistant to receiving the truth about such things that happen in the dark, in the darkness, and are a product of evil? I had a person say, "Well, I wouldn't ever think of coming to a support group in my church for fear of embarrassing my family." And so I feel sorry on one hand that the church hasn't become a safe place for them, safe enough that they could seek some support and help, which in our groups are totally confidential, that there doesn't need to be that kind of fear. And as we become acclimated and accustomed to seeking that type of support, soon all of your defenses to someone finding out leave and go away, because now you're doing something so wonderful and it's all out into the light, and things are changing, if not for your person that you might love, then for you. So it becomes less of an embarrassment and more of, look what I'm doing to conquer evil. And addiction is evil. It's really amazing looking back over the course of all of our years together, how the Lord has used different events in our lives to change the direction, the course, the path that we were on. And so before we moved to Holland, Harry lost a wonderful job. Here we have an opportunity to start a ministry for people and their families here in Holland after having done so in Muskegon and having set it aside for a little bit up there. Here we have another opportunity to fulfill God's call in our life. We belonged to a life group while we were at Calvary, and a couple in the life group would hear us and hear our heart about helping those that are struggling with addictions and their families. They invited us over to their house for dinner. They said they had been paying attention and listening to our hearts. And both of them came up with this at the same time as they had prayed and sought God's leading for how they would support mission or ministry. And they said, there's an envelope on the table. And so we opened it. And there was $1,000 seed money in there. And we were to pursue forming a nonprofit 501c3 organization specifically designed to help people and their families who struggle with addictions of various kinds. Adversity comes in many, many forms. And as some of you may know, Harry was diagnosed 4 years ago with a form of dementia, Lewy body dementia. And with it come various aspects. Visual, spatial issues come with it, where your perceptions are not correct in what it is you see. Even though your eyes are all right, your brain isn't telling your eyes what it is seeing appropriately. And so we've been, in some ways, given a new test. and it's a test that we want to pass. And so in spite of the adversity, in spite of weaknesses that come along, in spite of fluctuations that happen with the illness, in spite of the fact that Harry hasn't been able to drive for the last year, we have been able to continue ministry where we have been unable to do some of the things such as driving. We have a wonderful team of drivers that drives and assists for us for drug court. And you really understand the word better when Paul says, when I am weak, then I am strong. Because our dependency is no longer on what we can do, but on what the Lord will do, the provision He will make. So it's necessary for us to take that step back and look for transition time. We want to stay involved for as long as we are able to. And we are just having a sense in the ministry that the Lord is already preparing someone's heart to take our place. We just want to see what He has in store here, and are eagerly looking forward to a new season in our life.